I see the situation, which is to accept that no one's coming to rescue us. There's going to be not for many years any prospect of a reform-minded or capable government.
In a recent webinar, we hosted over 300 participants to discuss the violent anarchy in South Africa. David Ansara and Frans Cronje discuss how they think the crisis might be resolved. They also look at the future trajectory of the country and how South Africa has the potential to become an enclave society.
But look, I think it is very important to think long-term, as we've done this evening. But we are also in a short game which is extremely volatile. And there have been a number of questions. So this is Nandi Road in Durban. So scenes of destruction, millions of rands. We have an interview coming out tomorrow morning on our YouTube channel with Mike Schussler, trying to calculate the extent of the economic impact, and it runs into many tens of billions on his estimation, notwithstanding and not including the supply chain disruption. All right, so a number of people are asking, so Michelle says, any guesses on how long this will go on before it is stabilized? Ben asks, what are your expectations regarding how this will play out over the next week or two? What will stop it, or will we witness a continued low-intensity civil war? Frans?
I think it's my call, no fence sitting. I think this thing will lose momentum over the next couple of days and really slow through the weekend and into next week. And then we will begin to take stock. But remember, we go back to the status quo, which is very high levels of violent protest action on a normal day. So we'll go back there. I think this thing washes out, and I think it is unlikely that it is going to spread much beyond where it is active at the moment, which is an odd call from us, because we've done a lot on tracking the xenophobic protests and how they move across the country. And so our leaning immediately is to say, well, that pattern plays out again. I don't think that's going to be the case this time. And but I don't give you that answer with enormous confidence, but got enough confidence that you can judge me according to whether I was right this evening. David.
All right, Frans, so you spoke about the potential for the development of enclaves, and we had a question from Gerard who asks, how do we accelerate a system of stable enclaves? And we also had a question, quite a long question in the chat from Dirk, but you know, his ultimate, his end question there is, his big question is, how do we organize the community better outside of politics?
Enjoying this analysis? Click here to sign up for our 30-day free trial for more content from the CIA.
So I think South Africans are obsessed with what's happening on the macro level, party politics, internal machinations of the ANC. How do we begin to think beyond that and think about how we could have these the system of stable enclaves, as Gerard asked?
Well, Gerard, I think we're well on our way to that already. Perhaps the most telling statistic is this, is that 20 years ago, there were roughly an equivalent number of police officers, boots on the ground policemen, and security officers in the country. And today, there are roughly 3 times as many private security officers as there are police officers. And with the central definition of the modern state being a monopoly on the use of violence, we could see in that data, long before this eruption, that the state had in effect surrendered that monopoly. And I saw writing this morning, Anthony Turton telling the story of how policemen had begged private security operators for ammunition during the events of the last couple of days. On private education, on healthcare, now admittedly under threat by NHI, on investment strategy, where for many people with some money to invest, the decisions of the South African Reserve Bank matter much less than Jerome Powell and the Fed, because they have dollarized their assets and their wealth. So I think we've already marched very far down the road of an enclave society. The walled estates in which many South Africans now live, passed through a series of generations. And now we have purpose-built, virtually medieval citadels, one of our guests called it one evening, where if you're born in some of these places, you could arguably never leave the walls, and you could live your whole life inside the citadel. Necessity is the mother of invention here. And I think we'll see further moves down this road, and the speed with which the militia were established without much central coordination in recent days is just the latest example of this phenomena. Ultimately, an enclave is not a thing, a line on a map, a walled village or a militia. An enclave is a mindset. And that is a mindset that says Pretoria will not provide, to quote the great guru on this stuff, Clem Santa. And this is not a reformist government, and it's not a particularly capable government. And the authority of the state is going to continue to recede. And in those circumstances, you've got three choices. You can exit South Africa financially and physically and take your chances in the rest of the world. You can stick your head in the sand and pretend nothing is happening and be deeply shocked by each consecutive blow up and blow out, and deeply depressed at the lack of reform emerging from the cabinet. Or you can do the third, which is, I would say, a personal observation, how I see the situation, which is to accept that no one's coming to rescue us. There's going to be not for many years any prospect of a reform-minded or capable government. And with that mindset in place and expectations appropriate to it, it becomes very possible to take the strategic decisions that are necessary to ensure for oneself and your community a robust and successful future in South Africa, or at the very least to hold on long enough that you can survive through the very volatile political era that lies ahead. And remember, my advice to you has been, I think the ANC is still going to lose an election this decade. So this is very much still in the beginning stage. It's only going to get crazier. And if you've got a robust a mindset and a robust strategy and a robust community around you, I think you can make yourself robust enough to get through that even in good shape. And remember, others will be leaving. There'll be wonderful opportunities, perhaps, for groups with long-term vision and robustness here. And to live through this successfully long enough that you can take advantage of the upsides that may materialize towards the end of this decade and into the 2030s.
Yeah, Frans, I think the key takeaway message is to be anti-fragile, expect uncertainty, and you'll be able to withstand what comes.
To gain access to the full recording of the webinar, as well as future events, click in the link in the description below for our 30-day free trial. Also, we'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Is South Africa on the road to becoming an enclave society? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.